everybody, and welcome back to my channel. This week I am going to show you the difference between a ruffler foot and the gathering foot. When I first started this channel, the very first video I did was how to ruffle chiffon fabric. At that time I neither had a ruffler foot or a gathering foot. I simply did that using the settings on my sewing machine. Since then, I still use that method a lot of the times, and I'll tell you why once we get into this video. But I wanted to show you because I did have someone ask me to do a tutorial for the ruffler foot when I did the review on my Janome. As you all know, I no longer have the Brother sewing machine, the Project Runway one that I had when I first started this channel. I no longer have that. It died on me after 6 years and I just refused to get it fixed. I just went ahead and bought another one. And I know I'm rambling, but I just kind of want to give you a history before we get started with our video. So without further ado, let's get started. First and foremost, I hope the lighting is okay. It's really bright in my eyes, but it may look different to you guys. So just let me know. That way I can adjust things when I do these videos. Maybe I'll have to use my filter for my camera light. So I am going to get started with the latter first, which is the gathering foot, and I hope you guys can see that. Now I'm going to turn the machine on, of course. But for the gathering foot, you have to remove the foot that's already there. I'm going to go by this step by step in this process. So for those of you who already know this, just simply ignore and fast forward through the video. But for those of you who don't know, little things like that are important. So that's why I'm telling you. The gathering foot has two lines here, bars here where you will connect with your the foot when you attach it to the base. You're going to use the one that's closest to the front where you weed your fabric through, not the back bar. You're going to put it on the front bar. It's like that. There we go. So the reason it has two notches, and I hope you can see where I'm pointing, is because the base of the where you attach your feet goes inside in between those two bars, and you'll see what I'm saying once you attach it. So I'm just using a scrap piece of chiffon that I have here, which I find gathers so well. So that's why I'm using it. I love to gather tulle. As you guys know, I work with tulle a lot from my Etsy shop and making my tutus and things like that. So you're going to put this on the straight stitch for this. Now with the gathering foot, it's just pretty much the same as using the sewing machine freehand with the settings. You want it on the longest length and the tightest tension to get those gathers that you want. Or you could play around with your settings to see how tight you want your gathers or how loose you want your gathers. If you want them looser, obviously put your settings, what am I trying to say, more normal settings and looser tension. But if you want tighter gathers, you're obviously going to use the longest length and the tightest tension. So for me, I'm going to put it kind of in between just to see what we get when we weave the fabric through. So I think I'm going to leave my length here at 3. And my width, I normally leave in between 1 and 2 when I'm doing this. And for my tension, I am going to put it at a 6, maybe 6.5, just to see what we get. My tension goes all the way up to 9, which most sewing machines do. So like I said, you could play around with it to see how you like your gathers to come out. So let's start seeing how these gathers are going to come out, guys. I'm just going to put my fabric through here, and I'm not really making anything. I'm just doing this for tutorial purposes. So my thread does not match the red. Okay, so at this point all you're going to do is start sewing. As you can see, it's gathering on its own. I'm just gonna, because with chiffon chiffon, it tends to roll up at the edge, and I just kind of pull it as it goes through to unroll it. You do have the potential of it getting stuck, so my suggestion for you is just to pull your needle up slightly and just pull the fabric just slightly to get it to go through. And keep going. Now, of course, normally if I were making a true garment, I would back stitch, as I always tell you guys, to secure your stitch. But just to give you like a little feel of what the gathering foot does, this is the gathers for the gathering foot, and I used 6.5, like I said, and my length was at 3 and my width was at 2. So this is what we get for that. Normally for me, if I'm doing a tulle skirt, I want it, or a chiffon skirt, I would want it a bit tighter than this. However, if I'm doing something where I don't really mind how the gathers are, I just want it gathered, I will probably leave it at those settings. So for me, the gathering foot works. It just helps me out a little bit better than doing it freehand with the sewing machine. If that makes sense to any of you. If it doesn't, let me know. But it does add a little extra help for me instead of doing it freehand, and it doesn't get caught up as much in the bottom bobbin. So that's one of the things that I noticed using the gathering foot. So again, this is what that looks like. I am going to use the same piece to show you how the ruffle foot works. So let's get started. For the ruffle foot, you have to take off the whole base here. When you're attaching the ruffle foot to the sewing machine, you are going to take off this whole base. You have to, in order to attach this, and I'll show you all of that shortly. But this kind of connects, and again, you're going to take off that the bottom foot, which is a little tricky. There we go. And then you're going to unscrew this part. Let's just start taking this off. Make sure your needle is at its highest. So now that we have this off, what you're going to do is set this aside, because you do not need this for your ruffler foot. You're going to put it around this little black screw here first. This area, it's going to go through that first. Then you're going to connect it to the side and put your screw back in. Make sure this is as straight as possible when you screw this back on, because it does make a difference. So you may have to hold on to it just slightly to keep it straight. And again, for this one, you are going to keep it on a straight stitch. You do not need zigzag for this. However, you want to make sure that your needle is in the middle so that it doesn't break when you're going down. So what I like to do before I put my fabric in is just to test to make sure that my needle is going through the hole. And it is. So I want to get closer just so I can show you how to put the fabric through. Okay, so you're going to take the fabric, and one thing that you can do with this ruffler is, if you're connecting a piece of fabric that is like, you want one piece to be straight and the other, like the top layer of it, to be ruffled, you can do this at the same time, and that will be a separate video. So if any of you want to see that, just request it and I will add it in with my other videos. So how this goes is you put it under, you go under, over, under. Basically, I hope you can see what I'm doing. So the opening slots, you want to have it underneath that top bridge, basically. So you're going under and then over. That's what I mean. I'm sorry, under, over, under. It's over, under and then over is how you do it. And it needs to go through these little black teeth here. So what I normally do for this, because it is difficult trying to do it on your own, I normally have a piece of cardboard or some kind of paper to help push that through all the way. And it just kind of I slide it in with the fabric, slide the paper in with the fabric, and that normally helps get it through. See what I mean? And then I just kind of pull that so that it's all the way through. Now when I'm using my ruffler foot, because I like to start with a lot more fabric hanging out this way, I normally add about a ½ an inch or inch to my desired garment so that I can make sure that this is hanging over. Like I said, I have my notch here on 6, and I have, so what you're going to do is put your settings back to normal settings. You don't need any tight tension or anything like that. So I will put this on the normal settings that you normally sew on for your garments, and then go ahead and just let it go through straight stitch. And you want to make sure your needle is in the middle, not off to the right, not off to the left. It has to be in the middle so that it can go through that hole and your needle doesn't get broken. And I'm going to put my settings back to normal, like I said, so that I can get a good gather or ruffle, whatever you're doing. So make sure it's down, and let's go. It's doing all the work for me. I am not doing anything but just slightly holding it as it goes through. Now here is the difference between the gathering foot and the ruffle foot. What you can see here is that it has a lot more gathers here at the top, and I'm hoping you guys are seeing this because I did do a close-up, as opposed to the gathering foot, which I did a looser gather. And that's pretty much what you're going to get when you're working with the gathering foot. So for me, which one do I prefer better? Honestly, when I'm doing my tutus and I'm making like petty skirts and things like that, I prefer the ruffle foot, just because I get more of a tighter ruffle or gather, so to speak, when I'm making that, and that's what I look for. That's just my preference. You may have a different preference when you make tutus and like gathers or any kind of skirts or anything that you want to gather. One thing that I do notice, and we're going to get into the differences in a minute, but when it comes to preference for certain things, majority of the items that I gather and ruffle, I prefer the ruffle foot. That's just me. You may be different. When I make my petty skirts though, one thing that I like to still do is to freehand my 2-inch ruffle that goes on the bottom of my skirt, just because I like it a little looser like this. So for that aspect of it, I would prefer using the gathering foot, because this is more of the look that I go for when I'm doing the 2-inch ruffle, as opposed to when I'm doing the petty skirt, the bigger layers themselves. I like to go with this. Let's start that again. Normally when I'm making my petty skirts, what this does is every 6 gathers, every 6 stitches, I'm sorry, it gathers. That's what the 1, the 6, and the 12 is on here. And then you have the star, which classifies a straight stitch. If I did it on 1, it will be every 1 stitch it will gather, and it will be a lot tighter than this. For 12, every 12 stitches it gathers, which is sometimes what I use when I'm making petty skirts, but normally I'm using like the 6 or whatever. If in fact I want to use the 6 and get the same thing, but I still want to separate some of them, I do not backstitch. I will just leave the stitch open. That way when I'm going through, I can just simply do like this, like I'm doing now. Now this is normally the look I prefer because I like working with a lot more fabric and I like to gather a lot more fabric together. So for me, the ruffler foot is a little bit better of a choice for me. When I want to do simple gathers, just regular garments or things like that, the gathering foot will work just fine. And it does help me a lot better than when I was freehanding. I'm sorry, I'm just really not feeling well right now, and I have a lot of indigestion. But both of them work great, which is why I have both of them. Both of them serve different purposes for me. One may work better for you than the other will, but for me, both of them serve a purpose. So when I do, like I said, when I do the gathering foot versus the ruffler foot, honestly, the ruffler foot wins for me. They are both great to purchase. I purchased mine off Amazon, so I will leave the links below for you to purchase if you don't have one already. Is it worth it to purchase them? Yes, I think both of them are worth it to have. If you want to do one at a time to just get a feel for either the ruffler foot or the gathering foot, I would suggest doing that. I had my ruffler foot first. I watched a video where someone used the gathering foot and I said, well, let me see what the difference is between the ruffler and the gathering. And it I saw the difference, and to me I was like, oh, I can use both of these. So yeah, this was a really quick video, and I hope that you understand everything that I said. I hope the tutorials made sense to you. I hope what I said makes sense to you. If you have any questions about anything that I've shown you today, please ask. Don't hesitate to ask. Just don't go into things blindly. You know, I know a lot of YouTubers don't respond to their viewers. I try to respond to everybody out of respect, especially if you have a question about something you're doing. I may not respond right away all the time, but I try my best to respond to you because it's what I do these videos for, is to help people, and I'm not helping you if I'm not answering your questions. So please don't ever feel like I will not respond to you, because I will do my best to respond as quickly as possible. So if you want to post your questions to me directly through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever is more comfortable for you, if you don't want to put your questions directly into the comments, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Just go ahead and contact me however you need to. But if you want to leave your comments below, go ahead and do that. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That lets me know what kind of videos you guys like, what kind of videos you don't like. The more likes I get on a video lets me make better videos for you guys. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. I make videos every week. All of my social media, like I said, is in the description. If you want to see anything on this channel, if you have any questions about anything, this summer I think I'm going to focus more on more parenting tips, more things targeted towards mom and lifestyle. I will still be doing my videos, but because I'm working on some projects, those projects will take up my sewing time, so to speak, but not all my sewing time. So like I said, I will still be doing sewing tutorials and other like DIYs and things like that. But for the summertime, with the kids being home, it's probably easier for me to do like a lot of story times or just experiences I have had as a mom and, you know, marriage and things like that. I want to get more into that kind of thing because I don't have a lot of that on my channel, and I promised you guys that when I started this channel that you would have those things, and I don't have a lot of it. So I'm rambling, I feel nauseous, and I'm gonna go. So until next week, I will see you all, and I hope you are having a wonderful summer.